Life has a way of teaching us lessons in the most unexpected ways. Sometimes it's not in holding tighter that we find our strength, it's in letting go. Because here's the truth, when you keep holding on too tightly to someone, to a relationship, to a dynamic, you make it easy for them to lean back, to take you for granted, to assume you'll always be there no matter what. But the moment you let go, the moment you release the pressure, something incredible happens. They suddenly realize what they stand to lose, and that's when the shift occurs. That's when he starts to hold on. This isn't about games, this isn't about manipulation, it's about reclaiming your worth, your boundaries, and your energy. Letting go is not about losing, it's about creating space for the truth to rise. Let's break this down into 6 powerful truths you need to carry with you. So remember this, letting go is not the end, it's the beginning. It's the moment you stop carrying the weight alone and allow the other person to choose if they're willing to meet you. When you let go, you reclaim your power, you reclaim your dignity, and in that moment, the ones who truly value you will wake up, they'll rise, and they'll start to hold on. Not because you begged, but because they finally understood what your presence meant. When you spend all your time holding on, trying to fix, trying to control, trying to keep things together, you create a world where the other person doesn't have to do anything, they get comfortable. They assume you'll always be there, always chasing, always smoothing over the cracks. That's the illusion of control. You think you're keeping the relationship intact by holding on so tightly, but in reality, you're only teaching them that your presence is guaranteed no matter how little effort they put in. And that illusion is dangerous because it blinds them to your true value. They start to believe that you'll keep carrying the weight forever, that your patience is endless, that your love is unbreakable, even when it's being taken for granted. The moment you let go, however, that illusion shatters. Suddenly, they're no longer cushioned by your constant reassurance. They feel the gap, the uncertainty, the reality that your love is a choice, not a permanent guarantee. That's when their perspective shifts. They start to see that what they once believed was unshakable actually depends on their own actions, their own effort, their own willingness to show up. And the irony is this, it's not when you're holding on that they realize your worth, it's when you release the grip. That release jolts them awake. It forces them to confront the possibility that you won't always be there to hold the pieces together. Letting go isn't about abandoning someone, it's about ending the illusion that you're responsible for holding both sides of the rope. Relationships are not meant to be one-sided. They're not meant to be about one person fighting while the other coasts. By letting go, you bring balance back into the equation. You give the other person a chance to either step forward and pick up their end or to let it fall, revealing the truth about where they stand. Either way, you gain clarity. Think about how often people don't appreciate something until it's gone. They overlook the meal until the table is empty. They ignore the light until the room is dark. They dismiss your effort until they no longer have it. That's exactly what happens when you let go. You strip away the illusion of permanence, and suddenly they're forced to face what life feels like without your constant presence. That reality is often harsher, louder, and more convincing than anything you could ever explain with words. So letting go is powerful because it breaks the illusion of control that both you and they have been living under. You thought you had to keep everything in your grip to keep it alive, but the truth is, the more you hold on, the less they feel they need to. By loosening your hold, by stepping back, you allow the truth to surface, and that truth is undeniable. If they care, they'll step up. If they don't, they'll fall back. But either way, the illusion is gone and reality finally has room to speak. When you let go, something remarkable happens. The energy shifts. For so long, you may have been carrying the emotional weight of trying, proving, fixing, and maintaining. That constant pursuit creates a dynamic where you're the one doing all the heavy lifting while the other person becomes passive, often unaware of the imbalance. But the instant you step back, the whole rhythm changes. The silence becomes louder than the words you used to speak. The space you create becomes more powerful than the efforts you once poured in. And in that silence, they feel something they've been shielded from the reality of absence. Absence has a way of cutting through illusions. When you're always present, they never feel the cost of your presence. They assume it's endless, like air, something they'll never run out of. But when you let go, you interrupt that pattern. You introduce scarcity, you remind them without saying a word that your love, your attention, your energy is not unlimited. It is a privilege, not a guarantee. That shift forces them to face the gap between what they had and what they now feel missing. And that gap can sting more deeply than any argument or explanation ever could. It's often in the letting go that they finally awaken to what matters. People don't chase abundance, they chase what they fear losing. When you were always there, no matter what, there was nothing at risk for them. But when you step back, suddenly the risk becomes real. They sense the possibility of losing your presence, your laughter, your care. And it is that possibility that sparks a new kind of urgency inside of them. They begin to reflect on what they took for granted, what they overlooked, what they dismissed. The absence makes the value undeniable. Letting go also places responsibility back in their hands. When you're the one always pushing, they never have to. But the moment you step away, the ball is in their court. They must decide whether to reach out, whether to fight, whether to hold on. And that decision reveals everything. Sometimes they will rise to the occasion, other times they won't. But either way, you no longer carry the weight alone. You've shifted the responsibility, and in doing so, you've reclaimed your own strength. And here's the truth. It's not weakness to let go. It's not giving up. It's the ultimate test of what's real. Because only when you stop carrying someone do you see whether they'll learn to stand on their own. Only when you step back do you discover if they care enough to step forward. And only when you let go does the truth have room to breathe. That shift, the move from clinging to releasing, is often the catalyst that forces them to hold on, not out of obligation, but out of choice. And that choice is where true connection begins. When you let go, you reclaim your power. For so long, you may have believed that your strength was in your ability to hold things together, to keep giving, to never stop showing up. But here's the paradox. The more you cling, the more your power drains away. Every time you chase, every time you explain, every time you fight for someone who isn't fighting for you, you give away pieces of yourself. And that's why letting go is not weakness. It's an act of courage. It's the decision to take back your energy, your peace, your worth, and place it where it belongs, in your own hands. When you reclaim that power, you stop operating from fear. Fear says, if I let go, I'll lose everything. Fear says, if I step back, I won't be loved. But the truth is, love cannot thrive in fear. Respect cannot grow where desperation lives. The moment you release that grip, you stop begging for validation and start standing in self-respect. And that shift is magnetic. It communicates without words that your value does not depend on someone else's recognition. It radiates a quiet confidence that often pulls others in because people are drawn to strength, not desperation. Letting go also means you draw a line in the sand. You are no longer willing to be the only one holding the rope, the only one putting in the effort. That boundary says, if this matters, you'll meet me halfway. And boundaries are powerful because they transform relationships from being about one person's effort to a shared responsibility. By letting go, you're not shutting the door. You're simply saying, I will no longer carry both sides, and that statement forces clarity. What happens next is revealing. Some will step up. They'll realize they cannot afford to lose the energy you bring, the presence you offer, the love you give. They'll feel the urgency to hold on because they see you no longer giving away all your power for free. Others may step back, and though that can sting, it's also a blessing because it shows you the truth that was hidden while you were clinging. Either way, you win. Why? Because the act of letting go has restored your sense of control. True power is not in control over someone else, it's in control over yourself. It's in knowing that your life, your peace, your joy are not dependent on someone else's choices. When you let go, you reclaim that truth. You stand taller, you breathe freer, you realize you don't need to beg for what you deserve, and from that place of power, you allow everything else to align as it should. Those who truly care will hold on. Those who don't will drift away. But either way, you remain whole because your strength is no longer tied to how tightly you can grip, it's tied to how fearlessly you can release. When you let go, you create space for truth, space for growth, space for the right energy to flow in. For too long, you may have been filling every gap, overcompensating and pouring your time, attention, and love into someone who didn't fully value it. That constant effort leaves no room for the other person to act, to show up, or to prove themselves. But when you release your grip, when you stop overgiving, the silence you create becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, they see not only the absence of your presence, but also the reality of their own role in the relationship. That empty space forces them to notice what was once invisible, your value. We often think holding on is the only way to protect a bond, but the truth is, holding on too tightly can suffocate it. It leaves no oxygen, no balance, no opportunity for mutual effort. Letting go isn't about abandoning someone, it's about stepping back so both sides can breathe, and in that breath there's clarity. They suddenly realize how much they relied on your consistency, how much they leaned on your loyalty, how much they depended on your steady presence. It's only in the silence that the noise of your importance becomes deafening. This space you create is not just for them, it's for you as well. When you let go, you give yourself the room to rediscover who you are without constantly managing, fixing, or proving. You begin to see where you've been overextending, where you've been silencing your own needs, where you've been shrinking yourself just to hold things together. That awareness is liberating because it shows you that you are more than what you give. You are whole, even without someone else validating it. That kind of self-discovery doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you unshakable. And here's what often happens: when you step back, they step forward. The space you create becomes an invitation, a challenge, a call for them to rise. If they care, they'll feel compelled to fill that void. They'll sense the absence of your energy, and instead of coasting, they'll begin to contribute, to initiate, to invest. Why? Because the balance has shifted. They can no longer rely on you to do it all. And in that shift, they're forced to decide, either hold on or let it go. But the key is that the decision is now theirs to make, not yours to force. Letting go doesn't weaken the bond, it tests it. It strips away all the illusions and shows you what's real. The space you create will either be filled with genuine effort from them, or it will remain empty, revealing the truth that perhaps it was never meant to last. Either way, you win. Because in creating space, you've not only given them the chance to hold on, you've given yourself the chance to rise into your fullest strength, free of the weight of carrying what was never yours alone to bear. When you let go, you teach a powerful lesson, without lectures, without arguments, without endless explanations. Words can only go so far, but action speaks in a language no one can ignore. When you stop chasing, when you stop overcompensating, when you stop clinging to the idea that your love alone can sustain a bond, you deliver the clearest message of all: my presence is valuable, and it will not be wasted. That lesson doesn't come from anger, and it doesn't come from threats. It comes from the courage to step back and let reality do the teaching. The truth is, people rarely change when everything is comfortable. They rarely reflect when nothing challenges them. If you're always the one to bend, to forgive too quickly, to keep giving even when you're not receiving, then you eliminate the pressure that forces growth. But when you let go, that comfort is gone. Suddenly, they are left to sit in the silence, to wrestle with the void you've left behind, and that discomfort becomes a teacher. It stirs something in them, something that words never could. Your absence highlights your presence in a way nothing else can. They begin to replay moments in their mind. The times you showed up, the times you carried the weight, the times you offered love without conditions. Those memories now carry weight because they are contrasted by the emptiness they feel without you. It's in that space of reflection that the lesson hits hardest. They realize what they had, and they realize what they stand to lose if they don't act. That's when holding on becomes not just a desire but a necessity for them. And here's the beauty of it: by letting go, you stop forcing the outcome. You stop trying to control their response. You give them the opportunity to choose, and in that choice lies the truth. If they step up, it's because they've learned. If they don't, it's because they never intended to. Either way, the lesson is delivered. You don't have to shout it. You don't have to fight for it. You just have to trust the silence to do what words cannot. In the end, letting go becomes one of the most powerful lessons you can ever give. It says, I will not carry both sides of this forever. I will not be the only one holding this rope. If this matters, you'll show me through your actions. That quiet, unshakable stance is where your strength lies. And more often than not, it's that very strength, the courage to release, that awakens the part of them that finally decides to hold on. When you let go, you open the door to transformation, not just for the relationship, but for yourself. For so long, you may have been wrapped in the cycle of trying to keep everything together, pouring energy into proving, fixing, and holding on. That cycle is exhausting, and it can blind you to your own strength. But the moment you release, the moment you stop gripping so tightly, you begin to see the truth. You are not defined by who stays or who goes. You are defined by the courage to trust yourself, to trust the process, and to trust that what is meant for you will never require you to lose yourself. Letting go breaks the chains of fear. Fear tells you that if you stop trying, everything will collapse. Fear whispers that if you release, you'll be left with nothing. But fear is a liar. In reality, when you let go, you reclaim the energy that fear has been stealing from you. You no longer operate from desperation. You start moving from a place of power, self-respect, and trust. And that shift transforms not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. Suddenly, you realize you don't need to beg for attention or chase for validation. You are whole on your own. This transformation also affects the other person. When you stop overextending, they are forced to step into the role they should have been playing all along. They can no longer rely on you to carry the relationship on your back. They must decide, will they rise and hold on, or will they let it slip through their fingers? That decision is not yours to make, it's theirs, and that's the beauty of letting go. You stop carrying the burden of responsibility that was never meant to be yours alone. The deeper transformation, however, happens inside you. You learn to trust your boundaries, you learn to respect your worth. You begin to see that letting go isn't the end, it's a new beginning. It's the gateway to healthier patterns, deeper self-love, and stronger connections. Because when you stop forcing what doesn't fit, you create space for what truly belongs in your life. That's where growth begins, that's where strength blossoms, that's where freedom lives. So letting go is not weakness. It's the ultimate act of transformation. It turns desperation into strength, fear into trust, and imbalance into clarity. It's the turning point where you stop asking, what if I lose them? And start affirming, what if I find myself? And in that shift, you discover the most powerful truth of all. When you let go, you don't just give them the chance to hold on. You give yourself the chance to rise into the life, love, and freedom you were meant to experience all along. When you let go, you do far more than create distance. You create clarity. You strip away all the noise, all the excuses, all the illusions that kept things clouded. For too long, you may have been holding on because you feared the unknown, because you believed your effort alone could keep things alive. But when you finally release, you see the truth for what it is. You see who is willing to step forward and who is simply leaning on you. And in that clarity, there is freedom. Freedom from the endless cycle of trying to prove yourself. Freedom from the weight of carrying what was never meant to be yours alone. The beauty of letting go is that it does not close doors, it opens them. It opens the door for growth, for transformation, for the other person to rise into their responsibility. It also opens the door for you to rediscover yourself, the parts of you that may have been buried under sacrifice, under compromise, under the constant need to hold everything together. In that space, you remember your worth, your strength, your unshakable value. And once you've tasted that kind of self-respect, you realize you will never again settle for carrying both sides of the rope. And isn't it powerful to know that when you step back, you give others the chance to step forward? You stop teaching them that love is effortless, that your presence is guaranteed no matter what they do. Instead, you teach through action. You say, without saying a word, this is who I am, this is my worth. If you want it, you must show up too. That silent message is more powerful than 1,000 speeches. It's in that moment of absence that they truly feel the presence they once overlooked. And it is often in that very absence that they find the courage to hold on tighter than ever before. But here's the truth. You do not let go to manipulate, to test, or to force someone's hand. You let go because your peace matters. You let go because your energy is sacred. You let go because you know that your life cannot be spent clinging to what does not serve you. And when you live with that kind of courage, when you trust yourself enough to release what weighs you down, you don't just protect your heart. You elevate your entire life. And from that higher place, everything that belongs to you will meet you. So as we close, remember this: letting go is not the end, it's the beginning. It is the gateway to truth, the spark of transformation, the moment you reclaim your power. Those who are meant to hold on will step up. Those who are not will drift away. But either way, you rise stronger, freer, and more aligned with the life you deserve. The most powerful thing you can do is trust in the strength of your own release. Because when you let go, you don't lose, you evolve. Thank you for being here, for opening your heart, and for allowing these words to reach you. It takes courage to listen, to reflect, and to consider what letting go might mean in your own journey. Your presence in this moment is proof that you're ready to rise into a stronger, freer version of yourself. As you walk away from this message, carry this truth with you. Your worth is not measured by how tightly you hold on, but by the strength you show when you release what no longer serves you. Trust that your letting go is not an ending. It is a powerful beginning. I honor you for giving yourself this time, for choosing growth over fear, and for daring to believe in your own value. Protect your peace, trust your strength, and let your silence teach the lessons words cannot. Thank you once again for sharing this space with me. Stay strong, stay true, and never forget. You are powerful beyond measure when you choose yourself. Goodbye, and may your next chapter be filled with clarity, strength, and freedom.